This is weird. It's a reflective time for me. I did 163 episodes of Magnum, which I'm very proud of.
For decades, Tom Selleck has kept his marriage and personal life out of the public eye. So when he finally shared a goodbye message about his wife, it caught many people off guard, and it hit much harder than anyone expected. The words were simple, but the meaning behind them runs deep. Join us as we take a closer look at the story behind Tom Selleck's emotional goodbye message to his wife, and why it will break your heart. A man who never expected the spotlight. Before Tom Selleck became a familiar face on TV, his life was shaped by ordinary struggles and quiet lessons that had nothing to do with fame. He was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan. At the time, the country was still in the shadow of World War II. Tom's father, Robert, was away serving in the U.S. Army, working as a mechanic on B-29 bombers. That meant Tom didn't spend his earliest days in the typical mom, dad, and baby home life. For the first 2 years of his life, he lived with his grandparents while his father was overseas. Even though Tom was too young to understand it, that kind of early separation can shape a child's sense of security and family. It also meant that from the start, Tom's life included change and adjustment. When his father returned and the family reunited, they still didn't have an easy path. In 1949, when Tom was 4 years old, the family made a major move. They left Detroit and drove to California with very little money. They packed only what could fit in the car. That detail matters because it shows the kind of household Tom grew up in. One where you didn't have extra and you didn't take comfort for granted. The family used the GI Bill to buy a small home in Sherman Oaks, a quiet area in Los Angeles. But a small house doesn't automatically mean a stable life, and stability was not guaranteed in their home. Tom's father worked in real estate on straight commission. That means he didn't earn a set paycheck. Some months might have been decent, and other months might have been scary. When money rises and falls like that, kids notice. They may not know the numbers, but they feel the tension. They learn to be careful. They learn not to waste. They also learn not to expect life to be smooth. In Tom's case, his parents tried to do something important during those tough years. They taught him to stay grounded. They taught him that you work hard even when life is uncertain, that you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and that you don't act like you're better than other people. Those early years help explain why Tom Selleck later became known as a private person. If you grow up in a household where money is unpredictable and stress is real, you often learn to protect what matters. You learn not to show off. You learn not to invite extra attention. You learn to keep family matters inside the family. Tom's later choices, pulling back from the spotlight at times, avoiding constant media attention, and focusing on home life, fit with those early values. Another key point is that Tom didn't grow up dreaming about acting. Fame wasn't the goal, and being a celebrity wasn't his plan. As a kid and teenager, his world was sports. He loved basketball and baseball, and he spent his time on the court or on the field. That matters because sports teach a certain kind of discipline. You practice, you lose, you try again, and you learn to work with other people. You also learn to accept coaching and criticism. Those are not glamorous lessons, but they build strong habits. By high school, it was obvious that Tom had real athletic ability. He was tall, 6 feet 4 inches, and he stood out. Coaches noticed his toughness and his team spirit. But even with that talent, he wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing a future that felt practical and earned. Sports weren't a stepping stone to Hollywood for him. They were the center of his identity. He was a young man trying to build a life the straightforward way. School, work, discipline, and steady progress. When you look at Tom Selleck's early decisions, a pattern becomes clear. He often chose the harder road, even when an easier option was right in front of him. That pattern matters because it helps you understand how he later approached relationships, marriage, and family. He wasn't someone who made choices based only on comfort or quick rewards. He built his life around responsibility. Tom was offered a basketball scholarship to Montana State University. For many students, that would have been a dream offer. A scholarship can remove huge pressure. It can make college possible right away. But Tom turned it down because he had his sights set on the University of Southern California. That decision wasn't flashy. It was stubborn, focused, and risky. USC was the place he wanted, but he couldn't afford it at first. So instead of taking the easier scholarship option somewhere else, he enrolled at Valley Junior College and stayed home. While at junior college, Tom worked part-time at a clothing store and saved money. This is another clue about who he was. He didn't expect life to hand him what he wanted. He was willing to wait, work, and earn his way forward. Eventually, his patience paid off. He transferred to USC in his junior year and earned a basketball scholarship there. During the 1965 to 1966 season, he played for the USC Trojans. He didn't play many games and didn't score much, but he made an impression with his attitude. Coaches saw toughness and team-first behavior. That kind of reputation often sticks longer than stats. Then came another difficult choice. In 1967, with the Vietnam War still going on, Tom joined the California Army National Guard. This wasn't a decision that made life easier. Military service brings risk, structure, and sacrifice. He became part of the 161st Infantry Regiment and served until 1973. He attended officer candidate school and earned the rank of second lieutenant, and later he was promoted to sergeant. During his service, he was activated during major events like the Watts riots in Los Angeles. This was real duty, not symbolic duty. At the time, Tom also had a 6-month acting contract with 20th Century Fox. This was a big opportunity, especially for someone still trying to break into entertainment. But when he left to serve, the studio dropped him. That meant a door closed. A lot of people would have been bitter about that. Tom wasn't. He came back and found the deal gone, but he didn't regret serving. That's important. It shows that even early on, he was willing to lose career opportunities rather than step away from responsibility. These choices matter when you look at how he later handled marriage and family. A person who repeatedly chooses duty over convenience tends to treat relationships the same way. They don't see love as something you only keep when it's easy. They see it as something you protect, work on, and show up for. Tom's early life built him into someone who valued privacy, loyalty, and endurance, qualities that become especially meaningful when life gets complicated. And once Tom finally stepped into the acting world for real, the next part of his story shows just how hard he had to fight before anyone took him seriously. Almost giving up. Before Tom Selleck became a household name, he spent years living in the space between hope and disappointment. People often look back at famous careers and assume the path was smooth. For Tom, it wasn't. He had the look that casting directors noticed right away. Tall, confident on camera, and clean-cut. But that actually worked against him in a strange way. Instead of being seen as a serious actor with range, he kept getting treated like a type. He was the handsome guy, the safe guy, the one who looked too polished. Some people in the industry thought he was too perfect, which sounds like a compliment, but it can be a problem in acting. It can make decision-makers assume you can't play real, messy, complicated characters. During this stretch, Tom dealt with rejection over and over. He got small parts in TV shows, but nothing that built him into a star. Even when a door opened, it didn't stay open long. He was invited into 20th Century Fox's talent program, which was supposed to train new actors and help them grow into big roles. He stayed in it for about 2 years. His contract got renewed multiple times, which sounds encouraging, but the big break still didn't happen. Eventually, the studio dropped him. That kind of moment can hit hard because it feels like someone looked at your effort and decided it wasn't worth more investment. So Tom did what a lot of struggling actors do. He worked whatever jobs he could to stay afloat and keep going. He did commercials and modeling gigs. He appeared in ads for Salem cigarettes and Revlon's Chaz cologne. This wasn't the kind of work that made him feel proud or fulfilled. It paid bills and kept him connected to the business, but it wasn't the dream. And even though people don't always talk about it, survival work can feel humiliating when you're aiming for something bigger. Not because the work itself is shameful, but because it can feel like you're stuck in place while time keeps moving. This is where the emotional vulnerability comes in. At some point in that grind, Tom seriously thought about quitting. That's important because it shows he wasn't always confident. He wasn't always sure he had what it took. He reached a moment where he questioned whether chasing acting was worth the stress, the uncertainty, and the constant no. Instead of hiding those doubts, he went to his father for advice. That conversation became one of the turning points of his life. His father gave him a simple warning. If you don't go after what you want, you might wake up at 35 full of regret. It wasn't a long speech. It wasn't dramatic. It was direct and honest, and it hit Tom deeply. It pushed him to make a decision in his own mind. After that, something changed. Tom stopped treating acting like something he was trying to do. He committed to it as the goal. That shift matters because trying can sometimes mean you leave yourself an escape route. You keep one foot out the door. Committing means you stop waiting for permission. You keep going even when it's uncomfortable. You keep showing up even when it doesn't feel rewarding. That mindset didn't just help his career. It also helps explain how he later approached love and family. A person who learns to commit during hard seasons often carries that lesson into relationships. When things get complicated, they don't run right away. They try to work through problems. They protect what matters. Tom's later choices, especially the ones where he put family above career comfort, make more sense. When you know he once faced a moment where quitting looked like the easiest option and he decided to keep going. Fame arrives, but at a cost. When success finally began to build for Tom Selleck, it didn't arrive in a calm, gentle way. It arrived at the same time his personal life was under stress. That combination can be brutal, because fame doesn't just add opportunity, it also adds attention, judgment, and rumors. In 1971, when Tom was 26, he married Jacqueline Ray, a model and actress. Along with that marriage came an immediate family structure. Tom adopted Jacqueline's son, Kevin, and raised him as his own. That's a big decision, especially for a young man who was still trying to find steady work. It shows he wasn't just thinking about himself. He was stepping into responsibility, even before he had the kind of financial security most people would want before building a family. But life didn't settle into an easy rhythm. Tom's career was still unstable, and the entertainment industry can put pressure on any marriage. By the late 1970s, their relationship began to shift. They separated in 1979 after nearly 10 years of marriage. What's important here is the timing. Many people later assumed his rising career caused the split, but Tom said that wasn't true. In a 1982 interview, he explained that they had been separated for 6 months before he even started working on Magnum P.I. Even so, once Magnum P.I. started filming in 1980, rumors exploded. The story the media wanted was simple and dramatic. Rising star leaves his wife once he gets famous. Tom understood why people were drawn to that version. It was easier to sell. It was easier to gossip about. But he insisted it wasn't the truth, and he was clearly frustrated by how the narrative was being shaped. When a public story is built around your private pain, it can feel like you're losing control of your own life. The divorce was finalized in 1982, and it hit him hard. He described it as one of the greatest sorrows of his life. That wording matters because it shows the divorce wasn't something he brushed off. It wasn't just a Hollywood breakup story. For him, it was a personal loss. He had always planned to be married forever. When that plan fell apart, it left a mark. That heartbreak also helps explain something that people noticed about him later. He became more guarded. He didn't suddenly turn cold, but he became more private and protective. He learned what it felt like to have his personal life turned into a headline. He learned how quickly people assume they know the full story when they only know pieces. And he learned that love can be painful even when you start with good intentions. He also stayed close to Kevin through it all. Even when the marriage ended, he didn't walk away from being a father. That matters because it shows consistency. It shows he separated the marriage ending from his responsibility to his child. By the time Tom's fame was rising fast, he had already lived through a painful lesson. Success doesn't protect your personal life, and attention doesn't make loss easier. If anything, it can make it harder, because now your hardest moments are being watched, guessed at, and judged by strangers. And just when Tom thought he needed to shut parts of his heart down to survive, someone new stepped into his life in a way he never saw coming. The unexpected woman who changed everything. After Tom Selleck's first marriage ended, he didn't rush into another relationship. The divorce hurt him deeply, and the attention around it made things worse. When your private life becomes a public story, it can change how you trust people. Tom became more careful, more guarded, and more focused on keeping his personal life quiet. That's the mindset he was in when something surprising happened in 1983. That year, Tom was in London filming a project. While he was there, he started going to see the musical Cats again and again. People around him noticed. It didn't look normal to go so many times. His co-star Jane Seymour even thought it was strange. Most people enjoy a show once or twice, but Tom went repeatedly, more than 8 times. At first, it sounded like he was just a fan of the musical, but the real reason was much more personal. Tom wasn't returning for the songs or the stage effects. He was returning for one performer, Jill Mack. Jill was a young dancer in the show, playing Rumpelteazer. From Tom's point of view, she stood out in a way that felt real and joyful. It wasn't a flashy Hollywood setting. It wasn't a party or a red carpet event. It was a theater, a normal audience, and a quiet kind of interest that built over time. What makes this story even more interesting is Jill's first reaction when she learned about him. She didn't swoon. She didn't act impressed. In fact, when someone told her that Tom Selleck had been watching her from the audience, she didn't even recognize the name at first. She reportedly responded with blunt disbelief, basically asking who he even was. That matters because it set the tone for how she entered his life. She wasn't chasing a famous actor. She wasn't trying to attach herself to a celebrity. She was focused on her own work and her own world. For Tom, that kind of reaction likely meant something. After a painful breakup and messy rumors, meeting someone who wasn't impressed by fame would feel different. It would feel safer. It would also feel more honest. When someone doesn't treat you like a prize, you can relax and be a person again. Their first date wasn't some huge public event. It was simple. Dinner, that's it. No big headlines, no staged photos, no dramatic story. Just 2 people talking and getting to know each other. The simplicity is important because it matches Tom's personality at that point in his life. He wasn't looking for noise, he wasn't looking for attention, he was looking for something calm and real. And then Jill made a decision that showed this wasn't a casual moment for her either. When her contract with Cats ended, she chose to leave England and move to Hawaii to be with Tom while he filmed Magnum P.I. That's not a small choice. Moving across the world means leaving behind routines, friends, and a familiar life. People don't do that for a fling. They do it when the relationship feels serious and when they believe it's worth the risk. The way Jill entered Tom's life is a big reason their relationship became so lasting. She wasn't trying to use his fame as a ladder. She met him while she was already working hard in her own career. She didn't build the relationship by making it public. She built it by showing up in real life, in a private way, during everyday moments. The ranch. Tom Selleck's ranch in Ventura County isn't just a nice place to live. It became the center of the life he built with Jill Mack, and it shows the kind of choices they made as a couple. He bought the property in 1988, the same year he stepped away from Magnum P.Y. That timing matters. It wasn't random. It was the clearest sign that he was choosing home over fame and a steady private life over constant attention. The ranch was big, about 63 acres, and it came with work. It wasn't a simple move, in and relax situation. The land had over 1,500 avocado trees, along with old oak trees that had been standing for generations. Tom has even said he doesn't like avocados, which makes the next part interesting. He still kept the grove going as a business. That tells you he wasn't choosing this place for luxury. He was choosing it as a long-term base for his family, and he was willing to maintain it, even if parts of it weren't personally exciting to him. Over the years, the ranch faced serious challenges, especially during California's droughts. Drought doesn't just mean less rain, it can mean trees weakening over time, crops failing, and land becoming harder to manage. When you're responsible for property like that, you don't just worry about your own comfort. You worry about what's living there and whether it can survive. Tom watched trees die, including some that were more than a century old. He said, "Losing them breaks your heart." That line lands because it's not about money or property value. It's about seeing something old and living decline in front of you, even when you're trying to care for it. At the same time, he also noticed that after better seasons, some of the trees showed signs of coming back. He talked about seeing healthy new growth. That kind of regrowth takes time. It isn't instant, it's slow and requires steady care. And it matches the way Tom and Jilly built their life. Not fast and flashy, but stable, patient, and focused on staying in one place. There's another part of the ranch story that brought unwanted attention. In 2015, during the drought, local officials accused Tom of taking water from a public hydrant to supply his property. A private investigator hired by the Caleguas Municipal Water District claimed that around 1.4 million gallons had been delivered to the ranch over 2 years. The issue wasn't just water use. It was also that the water was said to come from a district where Tom didn't live. The case was settled when Tom and Jill agreed to pay over $21,000. What stood out to many people wasn't only the controversy, but also Tom's general approach to it. He didn't turn it into a loud public fight. He didn't run around trying to win the public over. He didn't act defensive in a dramatic way. He stayed quiet, handled it, and moved on. That fits with what people have seen from him for decades. When pressure hits, he tends to protect his family life instead of feeding the noise. Silence for him often looks like control. It's a way of not letting public opinion steer his private world. Today, the ranch still works as a kind of sanctuary for him. He has described simple routines there, like riding across the property, checking the land, noticing wildflowers, and reading the morning paper. It's not a lifestyle built for attention. It's built for calm and consistency, the same things that have shaped his marriage. And as Tom got older, that quiet life started to take on a deeper meaning that he couldn't ignore. Weight of shared years. As Tom Selleck got older, his life naturally started to slow down. That doesn't mean he stopped caring about work or stopped being creative. It means his attention shifted toward what he already valued most: home, routine, and the people he loves. This slower season is important because it helps set the stage for the kind of goodbye message that later hits people so hard. A message like that doesn't come from a random moment. It comes from years of living, building, and realizing time is not endless. After Blue Bloods, Tom's pace wasn't the same as it was during his busiest years. A long-running show demands a lot, even when an actor is experienced. It's early call times, long days, scripts, travel, press, and a schedule that can control your calendar for months at a time. When that kind of routine eases up, the quiet can feel strange at first, but for someone like Tom, who always seemed more comfortable away from the spotlight, the quiet also feels like relief. With less acting on the schedule, his days could look more like regular life. More time at the ranch, more time staying in one place, more time doing small, steady things instead of living from job to job. One of the details that stands out is how he spends his mornings, riding his ATV around the property, checking the land, and keeping an eye on what's growing, what's struggling, and what needs attention. This isn't flashy. It's not a celebrity lifestyle. It's the kind of routine that gives a person peace, because it's simple and familiar. He's also described reading the morning paper and looking out at the property, noticing wildflowers and changes in the land. Those little habits might sound ordinary, but that's the point. When you've lived a life where millions of people recognize you, ordinary moments can become the most valuable ones. They're private, they're calm, they don't require performance. And when you live close to the land, you can't help but notice how everything changes with time. Seasons shift, weather changes, trees grow, weaken, or recover. Even the small things, like which flowers show up first or how the light looks in the early morning, start to feel meaningful because they mark time. You don't just see that a year passed, you feel it. That's where the emotional weight starts building. Aging isn't only about the body slowing down, it's also about seeing life more clearly. You start thinking more about what you've already lived through and what you still have ahead. You start paying attention to what lasts and what doesn't. And you start understanding that the best parts of life are often the quiet ones you used to rush past. For Tom, growing old with the same person means sharing decades of real life, not just highlights. It means being there through stress, through wins, through public attention, and through private problems that most people never see. It means inside jokes, routines, hard talks, and small acts of care that don't make headlines. It also means looking at the person you married and realizing how much of your life is tied to them. Your home, your family, your memories, and your sense of safety. When two people stay together that long, love becomes less about excitement and more about steadiness. It becomes a daily choice to show up. And when time starts to feel heavier, those shared years can bring deep gratitude, but they can also bring fear. Not panic, but a quiet fear of loss. Because when your life is built with one person for so long, the thought of life without them is hard to even sit with. This is the emotional space where a goodbye message starts to make sense. Not as drama, but as something real that comes from living a long life side by side. If this video moved you, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more real stories like this, and drop a comment.